Chantal said. Yep. All right. So my name is Alex Carlesis. I'm the graduate assistant in the Career Development Center, here to present a little presentation for you about resumes, what to include, what not to include, myths that need to be that might need to be demystified, as well as what to include on a cover letter. And then if we have time, some interview strategies that you can take with you, especially because in this current climate, virtual interviews might start to become more and more popular. So how can we convey that same humanity that we are able to convey in in-person settings? How are you still able to get your main points across? So I will just take it away, and then feel free, if you have any questions, to interrupt me, stop me, what have you. So again, this is just a brief overview of what we will be going over. Firstly, we will talk about an overview of the Career Development Center resources that as alums are still available to you. So I want you to keep in mind that this presentation has been made with an alumni audience in mind. You are still able to access virtually all of these, the same resources that undergraduate students and graduate students currently at Westchester are that are able to access. So don't feel like this doesn't apply to you. All of these resources are still very much in your wheelhouse and something for you to be able to take advantage of. So again, we'll go over a resume overview, recruiter feedback that we've received from employers or students that have gone through the interview process and landed jobs, resume don'ts, what not to include, cover letters, interviews, and then next steps. So again, an overview of the Career Development Center. For those of you who might have used our services before in the past as an alum, you might just need a quick refresher. We offer career exploration. So whether you are trying to choose or change a major, deciding what careers you want to pursue with your major, or contemplating a career change, the Career Development Center can help you explore those options. Again, you might not need as much help in the major department, considering you are already graduated, but if you are contemplating a career change, or you are contemplating what other job search strategies you might want to think about, this is something that we would be able to help you with. We also offer one-on-one sessions, as well as drop-in appointments for resumes and cover letters, reviewing sample cover letters and resumes that help identify the type of format and content best suited for your experiences. So there are many ways to be able to disseminate your type of information and what skill set you bring to the table for a certain job. So we are here to help you find out what the best way that would be. And again, we also offer job search strategies. You still also, as an alum, have access to on Career Network Handshake for full-time and potentially even internship opportunities if you are a recent alum and that is something that you are interested in. If you have trouble accessing Handshake as an alum, please contact our office. We'd be happy to help you with that. So again, just call or email our office, and that information is posted on our website. We also offer interview prep as well. So finding information and practicing resources on what to do before, during, and after a job interview. This mock interview can last anywhere from up to an hour on Handshake. I should say also virtually. So all of these services are virtual, which I will get to in the next slide. So just so you guys can see what our schedule looks like for this semester, we are all online and virtual, much like all departments and services at Westchester this semester. Our drop-in hours are from Monday through Friday, 1 to 3. We also offer evening hours on Wednesdays from 6:30 to 7:30, and as well as every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 2. These drop-in hours last for 15 minutes. So if you are on a bit of a tight schedule or more time-sensitive person, not to worry. Feel free to use one of these drop-in hours to be able to meet with us about your resume, about potential introduction to job search strategies, and that way we can at least just get the ball rolling in terms of what next steps can be implemented. We also offer a little bit of longer sessions that are one-on-one. They are document review and job search strategies, as well as mock interviews. Our document review and job search strategies last for 30 minutes. And our mock interviews, again, like I said before, can last up to an hour. And all of these appointments can be booked through Handshake. And a full list of our events and virtual events that we have this semester are available on our website. So getting into the nitty-gritty of the presentation, the first topic that we want to discuss is resumes. So I want to do a little activity. Take a second, to be able to determine if what fact I'm about to represent to you is in fact a fact, or if it is a myth. So for instance, employers typically review a resume for no more than 15 to 30 seconds. Take a couple of seconds and determine if you would think that this is a myth or a fact. So this is actually a fact, a sad one at that. So resumes are most often skimmed in seconds. They are not read word for word. In fact, recent studies have come out that recruiters actually don't look at a resume for more than 6 seconds, which is even more bleak. But the good news is we have active ways for you to be able to combat this discouraging fact. So a good resume is able to say a lot in a short amount of time. So instead of emphasizing your entire professional experience, everything that you've ever done since high school, we want to make sure that we are highlighting your most core college experiences, everything, just the most important things that you learned in your educational experience, as well as your most prevalent or pertinent professional post-grad experience. So if you can make an appointment with us, we have strategies to be able to help you implement those things that are required for a resume. So again, myth versus fact. A high GPA is the top item employers look for on a resume. So this is actually a myth. A high GPA does not guarantee a job, and it is actually not something that an employer will even look for a couple of years post-grad, especially when your college experience becomes a little less relevant. Obviously, they're still looking to see that you obtained a degree, especially if it's a more specialized field. However, a GPA becomes a little bit less of a concern, especially once you have professional experience to update your portfolio with. So employers would rather, they do want academic success, but we have seen viable data that they prefer to see practical experience, several internships, leadership activities, community service, as well as technical skills in these internships. Myth versus fact. You should always include a cover letter with your resume when applying to an employment opportunity. So this is a bit of an easy one. This is a fact. So while you are able to tell the employer what you have done on your resume, it provides a nice summary, you are able to explain and go into further detail to the employer about why you are a qualified candidate for this specific job and what sets you apart from others in your cover letter. So again, this puts a more personalized spin on your application, and you're also able to speak directly to the company's mission statement, show that you're heavily invested not only in the position that you're applying for, but the company as well. Companies really like to see that you are going to be an invested team member. So again, myth versus fact. The best way to write my resume is to use a template. So this is a myth. So while templates may provide you with insight as to how you may want to organize the sections of your resume, they are very challenging and time-consuming to reformat and personalize. So if you are a visual learner, definitely browse these templates that are advertised on Microsoft Word or Google Docs, but I would actually refrain from utilizing them for your actual resume, because a resume is an active document. You usually are going to reformat it a bunch of times and try and personalize it, specifically if you're applying to a plethora of jobs for different organizations. So I would just refrain from using a template that prevents you from doing that in any way, or makes your formatting look all wonky if you try to indent or delete things or things like that. Also, another point why not to use a template is because if you've seen this template advertised on Microsoft Word or Google Docs, odds are a lot of other people have too and are using the same exact one that you are. So again, to make yourself a little bit more competitive when applying for jobs, you want to make sure that your resume stands out. And one way to not do that is to be able to use a standardized template. You don't want to do that. All right, so moving on. This was I think a really great chart to be able to show you like the data that I was referencing earlier. So key attributes employers look for on a student resume or a post-grad resume. They are really trying to look and see if you have completed an internship with your organization or have internship experience in your industry. If not experience, then a full-time or part-time job with related experience to this. And then you can see towards the bottom, a high GPA is considered one of the lower priorities. So again, employers want to see academic success. They want to know that you did well and applied yourself, because good work ethic across the board always looks good. However, they would rather see that you either have experience with their organization or that with a related type of experience. Therefore, they'll have to train you less and you'll be more marketable. Specifically, when it comes to a skill set that employers look for, the top one that employers have reported back to us that they really value in their employees that they've hired is written communication skills. This, I feel like, is going to become even more prevalent, specifically within today's climate, just because we are virtual. A lot of companies are virtual right now, maintaining work from home policies even after quarantine will no longer be necessary for a lot of this country. So going forward off of that, written communication skills will just become germane and necessary to the workforce, and being able to communicate exactly what you want through a virtual or digital setting. So again, if you do have any of these skills that are highlighted here, we as the Career Development Center can help you emphasize those throughout your job entries, your work experience sections on your resume, as well as your cover letter. So the question becomes not, do I have these skills? It's about, what skills do I have and how do I highlight them to best represent the type of employee I am? So getting actually into the resume, what exactly is it? It is a professional summary of your education, skills, and experiences. The goal of a resume is always to get an interview, have that face-to-face or phone screen contact with a hiring manager. Again, it is a live document. You have to keep it updated as your career develops. So that, therefore, you want to make sure that your resume is elastic and really easy to be able to reformat as you see fit, as you are able to add things to your resume that are more relevant, and sometimes even more importantly, take away things that are no longer relevant. So first impressions matter. We have to look at these specific facets. So are our margins neat? Are our dates all in the right place? Is the font size consistent, as well as the font style? How many pages is it? Usually, especially for a recent postgrad or an alumnus, I would say your resume really shouldn't be clocking any more than 2, maybe 2.5 pages, especially because, again, recruiters really are not going to spend a lot of time looking at this resume, especially if they see a lot of text and a lot of experience. We're really just trying to make sure that the most relevant information is what is placed on your resume. As well as, again, the formatting, the use of periods, is all of that grammar consistent, things like that. So the hidden message of a resume is, if your resume is neat, well organized, error-free, has a professional experience, and it's easy to look at, therefore, that means that you as an employee are neat, well organized, error-free, and also demonstrate a professional appearance. So 5 key elements to a resume. Typically for a professional resume, we do not include an objective. So for instance, seeking full-time employment to become a data analyst. That is an example of an objective. We typically try to exclude that from a resume. Number 1, it helps save space. Number 2, this is something that you actually would include in a cover letter or in an interview personally. Like, what are your actual goals? What do you want? Why are you applying for this job? That, again, that's something that is reserved for a cover letter. Education should be listed first. If you are, I would say, perhaps 6 to 10 years out of college, I would see why you might want to put your work experience first. But especially if you are a recent alum, I would still put your education, especially with Westchester, any graduate education that you've received since then, as your first section. Then comes the experience section. That is where you would put all of your practical work experience, related work experience to the job. Each section should have 3 to 6 bullet entries. Again, I would try and use bullets instead of writing out entire paragraphs. It just makes the resume look neater, as well as any related activities that demonstrate your leadership experience, as well as skills. So when I talk about skills, I mean something specifically what we call hard skills, which are computer software knowledge, any certifications that you have, any language proficiency that you have. We typically try to avoid what are called soft skills in this section, and that is anything from communication driven, detail oriented, verbs or adjectives like that, because instead, again, we try to reserve that for either a cover letter or job entries where you are specifically describing your responsibilities in that role and how you were able to carry it out. And again, other sections that you can include: honors and awards, volunteer experience, and professional associations that you are a part of. So again, education. You should be writing out the full name of your degree. So this is an example of, the first example is what we have seen in a resume. It does not spell out what exactly their degree was. It's very confusing when they graduated, etc. This at the bottom is an exemplary presentation of what your education should look like. You spell out the name of your institution. It is West Chester University of Pennsylvania in West Chester, PA. So make sure you're writing out the full name of your institution and the full name of your degree. So a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science in Education in whatever your degree was. Then you can include your minor if you wish, include your GPA if you'd like. Again, like we have gone over before, it is not as necessary as you might think it is, as well as if you received any awards or accolades during your education experience. So Dean's List would be a perfect example, scholarship winner, things like that. Also, if you are in a highly specialized field like computer science, marketing, things like that, I also think, especially if you're a recent alum, I think it also might be pertinent to include course highlights. So that's not just saying English 110 and then just leaving it at that. It's actually spelling out what the course names were, what you studied, and things like that, such as that is provided down below. Then we shift it again into your experience section. This needs to stand out. You need to start each point with strong action verbs like facilitated, collaborated, promoted, to highlight, again, your relevant skills, your communication skills, your ability to delegate, things like that, and also to be able to focus on your accomplishments. We also want to remove any first person proper nouns or anything like that. So please do not include I or I developed or my tasks were to do this. We find it just becomes very clunky and it is not necessary. Instead, just get right into the action verb and what you did. Also be sure to include where you worked, its location, your job title, and your start date and end date. If you still work there, you can just say August 2019 to present. And then again, the strong action verbs here: facilitated small group discussions on healthy lifestyle choices. So you're emphasizing what you did, and you should also be emphasizing how you did it, and also any awards or accolades you received from your supervisors or management or anything like that. Again, the skills section. This should be focusing on hard skills not demonstrated in the experience description. So this includes language proficiency. Are you native, fluent, proficient, conversant? Certifications, professional organizations that you belong to and are a member of, trainings that you have completed, computer programs, so Adobe, Microsoft, coding, any of that specific thing that you might have learned on LinkedIn Learning or Skillshare. That is something that you would want to emphasize here. And again, you don't just want to specifically list Adobe or Microsoft. You actually want to say fluent in Spanish, proficient in German, Adobe InDesign, like what specific programs about Adobe are you fluent in? And then any coding software is spelled out here for you. So extensive experience. Really try and briefly describe what exactly is that you are experienced with. So what went wrong? This is some feedback that we've received from recruiters regarding poor resumes, which included unorganized, there was too much white space, or too fancy, so that either someone tried to use a really fancy illegible font or really tried to put their formatting all over the place. It just didn't end up looking great. Especially if you have to upload your resume or convert it to a PDF, you want to keep that in mind too, because that actually might skew your formatting a little bit, which is again why we try and discourage you from using templates that can easily mess that up. Irrelevant information, so including high school experience, especially for recent grads. High school experience should be nowhere near your resume anymore. You should already be developed enough and have enough experience within college and what limited post-grad experience you have to just be able to convey a more professional narrative. Or it was sent to the wrong person, if you can believe that. So again, always make sure that you are double checking everything, what documents you are uploading, make sure that they are labeled clearly on your desktop or whatever folders that you keep them in. And then again, make sure you're sending them to the right place. So what not to include on a resume? Like I said, do not use the pronouns such as I, me, my, etc. Do not include references or even use the verbiage references available upon request. It's superfluous and unnecessary. If employers require references, they will explicitly say that either in the job description or in a follow-up email or communication with you, or sometimes you even have to write them out during an application. So they do not need to be included on a resume. Again, do not clutter your resume with non-essential information. Do not make any misrepresentations. So again, we're trying to really highlight the opportunities that you've had, the experiences that you've had, but you should not be lying about if you are not fluent in something, if you are not well-versed in a computer software. Don't just make it up. Instead, try and emphasize something else. And also do not include personal information such as social security number, age, sex, height, weight, marital status, or a photograph. Again, this is just deemed unprofessional. We want to just highlight your work experiences as well as your contact info. And that just means your email as well as phone number. You don't even have to include, sometimes I discourage my people that I work with from even including their address if they don't feel comfortable with, especially if they're applying to a job out of state and they think that that might influence the hiring manager in their decision-making process if they see that they're out of state, or they might have to have a relocation fee assigned if they are going to move for this job. So sometimes you don't even need to include your address, especially in this day and age, if you just want to remain safe. So on our website, we also have resume samples that you can take a look at. They just offer things that I mentioned, what to include, what not to include, as well as other correspondence examples such as thank you letters, how to format a reference list, and things like that. So feel free to check that out on our website. It is under the resumes and cover letters tab. So I will just shift on, and then if there are any questions that you have for the CDC, if Chantal, you would like to send me those questions that we might get from people who tune in a little bit later, I'd be happy to answer those. So shifting into the next section, which is cover letters. So again, we'll start off basic. What is a cover letter? So it is a tool to help introduce yourself in a memorable, more personalized way during a job application. So the resume is the cut and dry experience. The cover letter gives a little bit more of a personalized spin. So it's a well-crafted cover letter goes over your information on your resume, but also expands on it for the hiring manager, taking them on a guided journey of your career and life achievements as it relates to this position. It's typically a little easier if you're able to go chronologically, but also if you're just highlighting specific points about what soft skills you bring to the table from other applicants, you should have done, that should cover it as well. So the format of the cover letter, it should be your address, the date, the employer's address, a salutation, a body of the letter, obviously, a closing, and then a signature. And here is an example right here. An introduction, it's an interest creating statement, state why you are writing, the position you are applying for, and how you heard about it. This is where you could also potentially, to set yourself apart from other applicants, introduce the company's mission statement or vision into the cover letter and say what about that spoke to you and how that led you to apply for this job. It's a great way to earn brownie points. And then we shift into the content or the argument of your cover letter. So this highlights your qualifications you have that would be beneficial to the organization position. You can use verbiage that you have from your job description so that you don't have to write from scratch every single time you apply for a new job. But also make sure to expand on these qualifications. What exactly were the results? Did you receive any awards or praise for this work? Things like that. And then we work into the conclusion. So reiterate your interest in the position and the organization. Sometimes that's even more important. And provide contact information and make sure to thank them. And again, this sample is available on our website as well. Then we can shift into interviewing. So in-person and virtual tips. So how to prepare for an interview. We first need to, it's about assessing yourself, researching the organization, again, the vision, the mission statement, what exactly this position is going to entail. Make sure to read over the job description thoroughly. Even sometimes what I do when I'm applying, when I have applied for positions in the past, is I will write in the margins of the job description of specific examples that I can include to talk about this. And that is what I reference throughout the interview. And it's a nice formatted way to just be able to handle the interview and make sure that I get all my points across. Confirm all details beforehand. Again, if employers have given us feedback saying that students have sent them the wrong documents or have sent them to the wrong person, it is definitely possible to even miss an interview because you got the wrong date or time. So just make sure that you confirm that beforehand. Prepare questions to ask the employer. We have some of these questions on our website, but also if you look at job boards like Indeed or LinkedIn, they should also have some great questions that you can ask employers as well. Prepare 3 success stories that emphasize your strengths through projects, jobs, and other tangible experience, and practice. Once again, we offer mock interviews that last up to an hour. We can really go in and dig through what exactly your examples will be, what your success stories are, why you would what questions you can ask employers. And if you're prepared, that sometimes makes the nerves go down as well and makes you able to be a little bit more concentrated and focused. So again, employers focus on written communication skills, ability to work in a team, problem-solving skills. You're going to want to demonstrate these types of skills in your interview as well as your cover letter. But in your interview, that also gives you an even more of an opportunity to provide a personalized spin and speak to exactly how you are able to accomplish all of these skills and how they were able to aid you in accomplishing your tasks. So before the interview, this is specifically speaking in a virtual setting. So save the Zoom link to a calendar invite for easy access. That way you're not scrambling and searching for it through your inbox 5 minutes before the interview starts. We definitely don't want those nerves affecting you, and this could easily be remedied. Be confident, be polite. Again, that does translate very well to a virtual environment. Test your audio and video beforehand. So make sure try and log on to Zoom maybe 10 to 5 minutes beforehand, making sure that your microphone is working, that you have the proper outlet set up, and that your computer has plenty of battery in it to be able to finish the interview. Choose a professional background. So if you're comfortable showing your apartment or your house behind you, go for it. That's fine. Just make sure that, again, it looks professional, presentable. There's no unmade beds in the corner, things like that. Or if you're not as comfortable doing that, that's completely fine. Just make sure you choose a professional background, something that's pretty neutral. Look into the camera while speaking like I'm doing now. So that way it looks like you're actually talking to someone. This is a great tip, especially if you get nervous very easily. Just being able to look right into the camera right here is a great way to be able to dissipate those nerves. And then turn off your notifications. Seriously, it sounds like a joke, but especially if you have your phone near you or desktop notifications on, make sure that you mute those temporarily so that way you don't have a lot of sounds buzzing in the background and distracting you. Send your resume to the employer beforehand if possible. They might have already had it because obviously you applied with it, but make sure you just send them a personalized email saying, hey, here's my resume before our interview, looking forward to getting started. It just shows that you're on top of things and thinking ahead. And then pay attention to nonverbal communication. So if you see, obviously you can look into the camera to make it look like you're making eye contact with your potential hiring managers or employers, but also try and look at the Zoom the Zoom boxes. Hopefully, because it's an interview setting, they actually are engaging with you and not just they don't have a blank screen showing. So just make sure that you're looking to see if they're nodding their head, if they looked confused. If they do, stop for a second and say, hey, can I clarify something? Or what questions do you have about this? It's very important that you use terminology such as what questions do you have, as opposed to things like, does that make sense? Because then it makes it sound like you're unsure of yourself. So instead just say, what questions do you have that I can answer? Then when it comes to answering these questions, be honest and be concise. Take a moment to organize your thoughts. You don't have to have an answer right away. Some of these questions are going to be complicated and some you might not have prepared for. So it's okay to ask, hey, do you mind if I take a moment to gather my thoughts and make sure that I answer this in a professional fashion? Speak slowly and clearly. I, for one, definitely have a tendency, especially when I'm nervous, to talk a lot and talk very quickly. So just try and have these mental tabs in your mind. Again, this is why practice helps, to be able to gather your thoughts and be able to disseminate this information in a slow and an entertaining and engaging way. Make sure to use specific examples. If you are generalizing, that usually means that you are not on the right track. Be able to recall specific examples from your experience, not your friends, not your colleagues, your specific experience. And then again, look into the camera, make eye contact. It goes a long way. So types of interview questions that you could receive. One is resume based. So I see you volunteer regularly. Can you please speak to those involvements more? So these are questions where you will be able to, usually you do have the answer a little bit more readily prepared because you've spent so much time going and combing through your resume. And so therefore you're a little bit more familiar with it. There's also a getting to know you question. So these are usually a little bit more broad, the dreaded tell me about yourself question. This usually isn't an invitation to be overtly personal. You are, of course, allowed to be personal and allow some of that personalized flair to shine in, but always try and keep it in the professional arena in terms of what your goals are, what your interests are, why you're applying for this position, how you got your start in this specific career field, and what led you here, things like that. And then we have behavioral questions, which are usually the most involved questions. So tell me about a time that you experienced hardship in a workplace setting and how you were able to overcome it. Or describe for me a time where you successfully delegated throughout a project. So these are, again, questions that are going to take a little bit more explaining and a little bit more time to do, but I am here to tell you how to tackle those. With the creating your elevator pitch. So this is one specific strategy that you should have on hand to be able to consistently reference. So this elevator pitch should be no more than 30 to 45 seconds, I would say. And it's just a brief overview of your name, your year at WCU, or when you graduated, what your major was, or what your most recent employment was, or job employment was, your career goals, your strengths, your skills, and how it all relates to this job. So it's sort of a funnel system that all shifts down to the main goal of how it all relates to this job. Then to answer specific behavioral methods, I would say that you should use what is called the STAR method. So this is where we take a situation, we describe the background, provide context, where and when that this took place, the task, so describe the challenge and expectations. So what did I do? Why did I do it? What was I in charge of? What was my role, essentially? Then the action. So you elaborate on this specific action. What did you do and how did you do it? And then the results. So you explain the results, the accomplishments, any recognition that you received, savings that you made for the company, etc. This is where you give explicit data. So a good example of this would be, in my last role as a lead designer, my team was short-staffed and facing a significant backlog of work. The account managers were setting unrealistic deadlines, which was causing stress for my team and affecting morale. So here, again, you're explaining the situation. As a team leader, it was my role not only to ensure that my team met our deadlines, but also to communicate the bandwidth to other departments and keep my team motivated. So this was the task. Describe the challenge and your expectations. What did you specifically do? Then we get to the action. I set up a formal creative request process, including project timeline estimates to set better expectations, the action. I scheduled weekly meetings with account managers to discuss my team's bandwidth and share progress updates. So this is what did you do? How did you go about doing it? Then we finally lead into the results. By providing more transparency into my team's processes and setting better expectations with the account managers, again, you're referring to the action again, we were able to reprioritize the design team's to-do list and complete everything in our backlog. The following quarter, we shortened our average project timeline by 2 days. So again, you're showing how you were able to save the company in terms of efficiency or time, what accomplishments you were able to take from this, any recognition that you received, etc. Obviously, you are usually talking when you were describing a STAR method, so it's not going to sound as pretty and put together as this, and that is okay. Just make sure that you're following this same example in terms of you're establishing where you were, what your role is, what you did to combat the problem, and what the results were because of this. And then we finally reach the end of the interview. So you follow up with a professional thank you note within 24 to 48 hours, no later. Stay in touch and follow up in the allotted time frame, and then make sure that you have ended the Zoom meeting before you take that big sigh of relief or maybe do something else, or like pet your dog or something like that. So make sure that you have ended that meeting, and then follow up with a professional thank you note and ask them to stay in touch, even if you don't get the job. So to express your sincere thanks, reemphasize one of your strongest qualities and details from your conversation. So your thank you note can also be a reemphasis of who you are as a candidate. They might have been interviewing other people since you last spoke. So it's a good way to also be able to reorient them yourself in their brain. So draw connections between the position and your skills and experiences. This is also a great way to be able to mention anything that you forgot in the interview. I know that I've done that a couple times where I've been like, oh shoot, I meant to say this. Why didn't I say it? I guess it's too late now. No, it's not. Use this, the thank you note, as the opportunity to be able to say, by the way, I also wanted to mention that I also did this throughout my professional experience, and I also think it relates to the job because blank. Reiterate your interest in the position, thank them, provide additional contact information, and tell the recipient that you are looking forward to hearing from them. So again, I just wanted to reemphasize our services. We offer online mock interviews. Again, they are available through Handshake. You can schedule one with the CDC staff of your choice, and you can review questions and tips on the CDC website. And that is my presentation. Hopefully I covered everything that we wanted to discuss today, but if there are any questions, or Chantal, you wanted to talk about anything, I am all ears.
Thank you so much. That was so much information jam-packed into 45 minutes. So kudos to you. That was amazing. Some really important information for everyone. I'm actually going to stop recording. If anyone has questions, you can ask those or put those in the chat after I stop recording. So,